So, welcome back to yet another Mindful Matters podcast. I'm just enjoying settling into this. It is so nice, just having all this nice feedback and people watching this.
Mhm.
So, hey, if you're listening, welcome. Good to have
Welcome,
you.
everyone.
All right, and of course, one of our hosts, Richard Haggerty, coach of coaches, fantastic person just in general to be around. So highly recommending anything that he puts out. Awesome guy. I don't know where you found him, where you're following him. If you're not, you should definitely check out the show notes and see where you can find more of Richard.
That's very kind, Oresztesz. Thank you very much. Well, look, and likewise below, not only will you find being able to follow me on with my daily emails and so forth, but you'll find the link to follow you, Oresztesz. And I'm following you, and I am loving your daily videos. So for anyone who's not making an effort to dip in and at least a couple of times a week and have a look at Oresztesz videos, please go and do that. There's some really interesting ideas coming through on those. And go, like them, share them, subscribe to them. Oresztesz is a all-round hypnotic genius, as well as a wonderful, wonderful human being to spend time with. So welcome to everyone, and it's lovely to be here with you again, Oresztesz.
Thank you, thank you. And very kind introduction. Really appreciate it. And hopefully very soon we will see a few more of the videos actually go out in Spanish. I kind of realized, which is a very nice entry into our connection and the ways in which we notice feedback from our environment. I started to notice that I have so many clients that only speak Spanish that
Mm-hmm.
even though I thought it was a good idea to share the English version with them, I do feel that way too many people are missing out. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's only fair to create at least a few of the videos also in Spanish and
Mm-hmm.
begin making those as well to reach out.
Lovely, great idea.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Not so much the extra work, but but
No, hey, look, you're in good company. I mean, Mr. Beast is obviously one of the most popular kind of podcasters for the younger generation, and he massively built up his following by setting up specific channels for different languages around the world, starting with Spanish, I think. And then he has a crew of professional actors that basically go in and will dub. Actually, that they go in. I think they'll because you can add the transcripts there quite easily and change it for languages. But he has that dubbed. But I suspect for our purposes here, it's probably going to be, it may be easier just to put out a Spanish version. I think you're right. I think it's a great idea based on where you are, for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't mind to have access to the kind of resources to
Yes, of course.
to waste on any single video, but yes, absolutely. No,
Wonderful.
I love this. I love to the extent that people are going to entertain others. I think it's really inspiring to
Mm,
see how easily you can get out there, share what you're passionate about. I mean, just
yes.
the option of us coming in here,
Yep.
have this recorded, and then have others that are interested in how they can improve their mind, how they can have a better understanding of how their mind works, and just then uploading it and have it be available for anyone.
Yes.
It is just amazing. I'm really loving the opportunity and the possibility of it.
Definitely. I was doing the masterclass last night on product creation, and one of the things I said to the guys, there's a quote from some 18th century philosopher, which is along the lines of, "We only know what we make," and it is such a great way to get deeper insights into the things that you're passionate about, and to connect and share them with other people. And it's a hugely transformative process to do that. And what you find is it allows you to set the tone for creating a particular culture that may not have existed before, bring together people who are interested in a particular area. And whereas even a few years ago, the technology was quite difficult to do, everything from the bandwidth, the bandwidth that was available, to the computer processors, to the just the online platforms, or setting up a shop or uploading videos. Now it's very straightforward and simple, in its most basic essence. And so it's a great time to do that. And for our listeners out there who want to grow, change, evolve, it's a lovely opportunity now to do that. And if you're patient with it, and you come from a place of sharing the stuff that is of interest to you and that has personally affected you, like the way I think about it, Oresztesz, is for us here, what could have been things that 3 years ago or 10 years ago, either for us or our clients, would have been the kind of stuff that would have just been gold to know back then. And that's what we're doing here now with our decades of experience.
Absolutely. And I think just seeing people comfortable with creating material, understanding that you can get to this point. As I supervise the practice groups at the university, at the online university of one of my most awesome favorite mentors, Igor Ladachovsky. It is really inspiring that when I see the students that all they do is just they are consistent. Not all of them start out great. They just become so good just because they are consistent, just because they are out there. And that is so inspiring. Even for me, as a person with more experience than some of them, I just know that if all they do is continue consistently engaging with the things that they're doing, they are going to do really, really, really well. So just seeing others at any point of their level of proficiency, do not ever let that intimidate you. All that is missing is just continuing to engage with what you're doing. And I hope that us sharing some of our stories and our stumbles, I'm more than happy to share with you all the ways in which I have messed up on my way. So so you get to at some point just laugh about your own missteps. And I hope it inspires you. What really inspires me, what I found is talking to people that will make use of my experiences. It just actually makes me feel much better about those blunders, because I find I can continue to find value in them by sharing it with you.
Yep. And I second that, Oresztesz. I think, last night I was saying I gave many examples of how people could produce a book very easily and quickly through using modern technology and get it out on Amazon. And I said, look, here's the thing. Just think about the story that only you can tell. Like from your life, you've had experiences that are so unique, culturally, or because of your age or your gender or from where you're from or the socio-political context or whatever it is. You've had unique things that you've gotten through. And this is the key thing. I think we touched on it a little bit last time, but when you can look back over your life and realize, wow, I literally, I'm almost taking that in my stride now. How on earth did you get from there to here? And what would a younger you have benefited from knowing back then? Because that's where you can start to create stuff that really adds value. I mean, adds huge value for other people. Even just to know that there is somebody out there who has been through similar experiences and is okay and has found their own kind of way to make peace with it, or even turn it into an advantage, turn it into a superpower. And that is it's a very sort of it's a very empowering place to be.
Definitely. I mean, Oresztesz, if you're watching this 10 years ago,
Amen to that.
Slow down,
Yes.
relax, take
See.
things easy, and you're gonna
Mhm.
have such a good time. It's everything is just going to get so much easier and faster by
Mm.
slowing down. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm going to recommend that to the younger me as well. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So I thought that it would be a really good idea to you shared an interesting note with me that I understand that you send out to your mailing list.
Mhm.
Uh, and you were talking about a few of the mental fallacies that
Mhm.
we end up tangled up in or tripping ourselves up with. And the
Sure.
thing is, what I find really interesting about these is that they are so common that they already have
Mhm.
names. It's
Yes.
it's not just
Yes.
something that
Yes.
you are stupid and you are messing up. No,
Yes.
it's something that we as humans want to be aware of.
Mhm.
And awareness, even though I did finish my psychology degree as well. Oh, I'm very happy they called me yesterday after like over a year that I'm probably gonna get my actual diploma this December.
Congratulations.
So that was very cool. There were some, over the course of the year, there were some people getting a little bit upset and, no communication from the university and whatnot. But yes, yes, it seems like finally I'm actually going to have a paper of having graduated as a psychologist. But I did find some of the overly conscious strategies lacking in the terms of just understanding what seems to be a problem. It's not it's not necessarily going to solve it, but we cannot ignore the power of understanding. Because if you
Mm.
are aware of an issue, then you can, within your conscious power, be aware of it when it comes up, notice it when you find yourself doing it, maybe laugh it off, maybe do a bit of a correction, maybe prepare for it a little bit next time. And
Mhm.
this way you can slowly that's the interesting part about awareness. It is not going to,
Mhm.
just because you understand what's happening, it's not going to make it go away. What you can do is slowly, by awareness, realize it, notice it, do a little bit better, steer away from it in the direction that you want to go into. So I
Yeah.
think understanding these processes, which might be a really interesting discussion today, I think it's definitely going to be very helpful to improve your social skills and interactions.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the key. I think what you're saying there about it being being something that's slow, that you can that you can do, that you can integrate that as we talk about these and think about these. It's first of all not to beat yourself up about them, because they are natural processes that occur for everyone and have occurred pretty much in one shape or form. I mean, there might be slightly different nuances these days, but have existed for a very long time. And also, um, we, integrating those kind of awareness and staying present to it is it's a sort of ongoing process. And what we're talking about today actually is something that's very natural and very healthy, which is that when we were, our ancestors in particular, when we lived in sort of smaller, tighter communities, and we were closer in sort of physical proximity, what we would have called here a few decades ago in the UK, even the nuclear family being quite close together, that we develop our personalities by imagining ourselves through the eyes of people in our groups. And this is very, very healthy. It's a socializing kind of way. It's a way in which we can empathize. It's a way in which we can start to grow and fulfill certain useful roles, constructive roles within our groups, within our tribes, and our families, within society. The challenge is when that gets unchecked and gets a little bit out of hand. And I think that's what
So
we're going to
I
look at.
believe you are already jumping in the first one, which is named the looking glass self,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, and just as a quick description, the idea is that we have a we create a concept of how others may perceive us in a situation. Then we project our interpretation of what they might feel, how they are likely to think about the appearance that we made up, that we think that this is how we appear for them. We then think about
Mhm.
how they are perceiving that.
Yes.
Then kind of develop our idea of ourselves based on these two. Now, I'd like to give you a quick little challenge. If you're watching this, try to pause this video for one quick second and write down what you might think the biggest danger or dangers are in this little process. Think how we appear to others. We make that up because we don't really know. Then we imagine how that appearance is going to be judged. And then we create our sense of self based on that reaction. Like, are we valuable? Are we just, how are we? So I've given you a few seconds, and I look forward to the to the comments. And Richard, what do you think could be some of the possible pitfalls of this strategy?
Well, it's funny actually because I'm sort of thinking of kind of the kind of like a sort of this is a sort of three-stage process. So if I'm imagining how I look to other people, and let's say or maybe I'm not feeling competent in a particular area, and I'm feeling maybe a bit nervous or maybe anxious. So I'm going to do something that's completely outside my comfort zone in all different ways. Then the danger is that I could imagine myself looking a particular way through other people's eyes. In fact, I could imagine their judgments based on how I'm kind of feeling at the moment. So now I'm imagining myself already in this kind of distorted thing, and then even worse than that, over time, I could imagine you can imagine them and the stacking of previous, like the next time I see them, worrying about that on the basis of the last time that I saw them, and then even beyond that, internalizing a sense that I'm incompetent in this area, or I am awkward socially, or something like that. And I could see from having worked with many people over the years in terms of different types of anxiety or social anxiety, I can see how simple that is, and also how simple it is to reverse.
Mm. Yes, I think you mentioned the one of the key words I would think in this description is that really tells us how this can go wrong is the idea of a projection.
Yes.
Because we imagine how we might look like for others. So even in that, we are assuming that we know how they are looking at us. And
Yes.
then we think that we know how they judge that appearance,
Mm-hmm.
that expression of self. And we can be so completely wrong.
Yes.
I it this as you were describing it, it brought up a really kind of funny and sad story, which I have to preface this by telling you that I used to have glasses until I had my laser eye surgery at like 20 or something, and a whole new world opened up for me. But I had eyes just bad eyesight, just bad enough that I could get by without my glasses. and that they were a bother. You can lose them, you can break them. You look different when you put them on. It takes a while for your eyes to get used to them. So I preferred not to use them. What I would is I find my workarounds. For example, I developed a very, very good sense of identifying people by gait, by the way they were walking, because I could not really, really make out their faces like from across the hall. So I mostly just got buried in my books. I was reading a ton, and I had decent eyesight. I mean, I could function perfectly, but I wouldn't see the exact number on the bus pulling up until it was just close enough to let them know if I did want to get on or not. So this tiny things that did not create major problems in my life. But I have to tell you, because this is going to be relevant to the story, I would walk down the corridors of my school. This happened in the eighth grade of school, or seventh or eighth grade, or something like that. I would just walk and be completely lost in my own thoughts, because I could not exactly see who were the people around me far away. If they got close, of course, I perfectly could see them and I would identify them. So I was kind of just lost in my thoughts, or maybe reading as I was walking down the halls. I was a little bit forgetful, so I sometimes, I would walk down the aisle, turn around, and pick something up from my bag back in the classroom and during the breaks and whatnot. And in one of these times, as I was walking, a girl that I swear I had never seen in my life before, she comes up to me, and she tells me, I've had enough of this. This is just way too rude, and I hate how you are ignoring me and how on purpose you have been ignoring me. I don't know how you know that I like you and whatever, but this and I'm standing there completely just like, what the hell is happening? Why am I being told off for something I've never done? I have no idea who you are, and you're telling me that I'm constructing my day to ignore you and hurt you by my on purpose ignorance of your being. And she went on for a while, and I tried to tell her that I wasn't doing these things, and then she kind of pulled out a mental list. Well, then this day, when you saw me at the school, you turned around immediately. And I'm like, basically, at some point, I just decided to give up, and I stopped
Right.
fighting it, and kind of like, yeah, I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry. Because there was no convincing her. And I think this is a perfect example of how you can make up an entire story that was 100% her projection. I can
Sure.
honestly tell you, and if you're listening to this ever, uh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was really not against you, but it's a great illustration of how a person can make this entire story up just based on their own perceptions, and it in a way it terrifies me.
Beautiful. Yeah, and well, look, I mean, it's there's a couple of things. I mean, that's a great story, so thank you for sharing that. And I think it leads into something else really nice, really interesting. But I realized this years ago when I was over 2 decades ago when I started seeing clients for things like a fear of flying. And I mean, it amazed me because as a kid, I lived in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and so I regularly would fly out there, or I'd fly back sometimes to the UK, if we were visiting family. And I'd get on a plane, there'd be nice food on there, there'd be some gifts for the children. This is like, in the 70s and stuff, so sort of like early 80s. So it was still fun, it was like everyone would just rock onto a plane, it was cool. The adults would be happy, they'd be smoking away or drinking their drinks, and the kids would be playing, doing their stuff. It was the good old days,
Exactly. Yeah. Smoking on the plane.
Exactly, they were doing that. But so all I've ever had as for me, it's just it's a fun place. I'm going to go somewhere and have an adventure. I'm going to get on it. It's going to be exciting, and And also I can play, I can enjoy. So those are my associations. All of a sudden people start coming to see me and they say, man, I don't like flying. And I'm like, well, tell me more. And they're like, well, man, I just imagine the plane going, yeah. And I'm like, why would you imagine that? It speaks to the fact that we, in our minds, are always making projections. So we're not experiencing reality through like an uncritical lens. It's always through certain filters and certain interpretations, and it can be very useful for you to know that, because otherwise you have the experience that the poor girl who you mentioned had, had as well. That she had a
Terrible
particular
experience.
exactly, she had an experience like that, and unless she has some awareness later on, she will still have similar experience of that, and it's very, very painful for people, because allied to this is the compounding factor, which is what they call the spotlight effect. And the spotlight effect is really just is imagining seeing yourself where we imagine seeing ourselves through the eyes of other people. Okay, but specifically, it's like it speaks to the tendency for people to overestimate how other people notice aspects of their behavior. And so when somebody thinks, oh, I'm being ignored, there is a tendency to kind of like the spotlight thing speaks, it's almost like a metaphor that there's a floodlight being on them, which is like, and they're looking around and they feel as though everyone is sharing that projection with them, when they're not, because other people are stuck in their own mental projections and in their own movies, and just dealing with their own stuff.
Absolutely. And if you can relate back to the story, I would say that I was not carrying a spotlight focused on her. I was carrying a
Agreed.
little hand lamp focused on my
Yes,
folks, and
yes,
or even inside my own head. I was completely ignorant
yes,
of a lot of things that
yes,
were going on. So
yes.
Richard, I think we put up quite the ambitious goal of actually discussing all six things that you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
your article. I think it's well worth to explore maybe just these two today, and try to
Sure,
find some strategies that are going to be useful for our listeners. What they can
sure.
actually do
Mm-hmm.
to mitigate this effect, because I love this. I had a very interesting conversation with a person I respect a lot, and I know that he reads an insane amount of books constantly. He's pretty much cut off from the internet and whatnot, but he's absorbing ideas in a different way. And at some point, because I do respect how he relates to the world and how he talks and how he just brushes off tiny things, and sometimes, if you present the wrong kind of idea, he will just completely ignore it because it has no relevance to
Mm-hmm.
actual important stuff. Um, and I asked him, so what would you say that your biggest understanding, the most important idea from all of what you have learned of the world? And he said, it's reducing the egoism, reducing the
Mm.
focus on the self. And I think
Mm.
one of the biggest things that he mentioned was this idea of specifically the spotlight effect. You
Yeah,
are not the center of the world for the vast majority of people.
yeah.
And it's a little bit painful to think that you're not so important, but it's also so liberating. It is such a sense of freedom that you can get from understanding that when people are negative towards you, it's
Mm-hmm.
not that there is something wrong with you, it's
Mm-hmm.
their projection. When people are positive towards you, that we like to believe that is because we are awesome, that is also in part their projection. And of course, definitely, it must include something that they notice about you. So you can
Yeah.
definitely take some of that on yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
absolutely, the biggest learning there is the idea of understanding that not everybody has their spotlights focused on you, which lets you
Yeah.
be free, lets you be much more of yourself, and understand that, you know, you can feel much safer in your own skin and
Mm.
understand others acting because of all the billion things in their head. I mean, just imagine, Richard,
Mm.
just imagine how many things have to go through your own head to create this judgment, to create the projection, to think how they
Hmm.
think about you, make this all up, feel bad or feel good based on it. And just imagine all of these things going in your head. How much time are you spending in judging them?
Sure.
Now, everybody's doing the same thing. They all have their kids, their projects, their work, their health, their money, their you know, fears, their
Hmm.
anxieties, the things that are coming up, the things that happened in their past. They have no time for
Yep.
judging you or putting you down most of the time. And if they do, that belongs more to them than to you. So
Yes.
I think one of the strategies could just be really reflect on this idea. People are not out there to get you,
Yep.
and you get to
Yep.
feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I it makes me kind of think of two other things that we could, related to sort of go along with your insight there, Oresztesz, that people aren't looking at you. And the one is to um, shift your focus into how you can, in fact, they're both related. It's how you can shift your focus into appreciation. So starting to find things to appreciate in others and appreciate things inside yourself and make a note of that. Just to start to shift the focus a little bit, because it kind of retrains. It actually will, there's a lot of evidence that writing that kind of stuff down will help to eventually start to retrain some of those tendencies inside. But also, there's the opposite side of it as well, which is why I love coaching and love the work that we do. So, a group of people I'm working with at the moment, I'm teaching them how to do, help clients train themselves to have the kind of projections they're going to really empower them. So, when they have something that they want to have happen, to just start asking, well, what's one small sign that you could notice that you're moving in that direction towards your goal? Or what's one small clue that you might notice, or that someone close to you, a friend, a neighbor, a colleague, your partner, your son, your daughter, might notice about you that you're moving in that direction? And if you want to go for the big kahuna, you can start leveraging your environment. And my favorite one is, what could your computer screen? What's one small thing your computer screen might notice about the way that you're standing, or the way that you're talking, or the way that you're looking? And when you're moving with competence and confidence, more in the direction you want to head. And these kind of strategies of either appreciation for yourself, or starting to reverse that equation and start to look for even the smallest sign that somebody's noticing change in you, can over time have really big rewards for you in terms of being able to mitigate, exactly like you're saying from your wonderful story, the effects of the spotlight effect and the looking glass effect.
Absolutely. And I I have a sense that if someone were to listen to this podcast in a little bit different way than usual,
Mm.
there are some of the books that for me are just so completely I feel them there so dense that sometimes I pick them up. For example, the some of the Stoic books,
Mhm.
the Tibetan book of life and death, or
Mhm.
I think so. Uh, you know, sometimes you just read a few words and you kind of want to stop and reflect on it. I do want to
Yes.
invite whoever would like to get a little bit more out of this is just to really fully consider some of these questions.
Mm.
And I'd like to add one of my own, which is sometimes when I see people trying to convince me as their therapist that they are that they are really in a bad spot and that they are really messed up, and you know, sometimes they do believe these stories. uh you know, I just ask them, okay, well, you know, what is wrong with all the people that love you?
Wonderful.
uh, you know, just think about it. What the hell? How are they so blind? I mean, what are they seeing
Mm.
in you? It makes them stick around in spite of all these terrible things that you're describing to me. Low self-esteem and afraid and procrastinating and not advancing. Like, what do they see? Or what do they focus on among
Mm.
all the things that they can see?
Very nice.
Why do they love you? Why your friends, your family, your partner, children? Why do they love you? And that's an interesting exploration. I really hope that you do get an opportunity to explore that. And definitely thank you for sticking around.
Mm.
I hope, I mean, we were really ambitious in trying to cover all these six ideas. I think that they're just with the two, we could probably go on for a little bit longer, but uh, let's keep something for the next time around.
For
So next
sure.
week we will, I believe, we might continue with these same fallacies and some strategies that you can use to get better, and how you can use your understanding to have more awareness and better results. Richard?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I no, I agree, and I think that's. I think it's better to take one or two ideas and take time to reflect on them. So, you know, the question that you mentioned there, why do those people love you? Okay, and what might they be focusing on? Is an excellent one, and the easiest way to start to get some benefit is to slow down and take time to fully consider things. And the way that I found the most effective to do this is to write it out, type it out, so that you can slow down and you can see it in front of you. You can come back to it, you can reflect on it. Because, as you say, Oresztesz, there are many books out there that are very dense in terms of ideas, and not necessarily taking people into kind of the practical side of it, like you mentioned, the Tibetan book of the dead. I think it's some of the Stoicism. I mean, it's great, it's lots, but you only need one idea, and fundamentally, you need to slow down long enough to consider it, consider the ramifications of it, and even we're just talking here a couple of minutes, but the benefits can be huge for you once you can embody and internalize and really, really start to appreciate that actually you have a lot of control, or much more, should we say, ability to um, perceive things than you might previously have thought. And it's quite wonderful to know that however you think things are, they may well be much better than that, or they may be far different. And you certainly got a whole lifetime of things to explore within that.
Absolutely. What a wonderful way to close out today's podcast, and do reflect on these ideas. I definitely invite you. And I also would like to invite you to make sure that you're subscribed, so you get to keep seeing these videos. And also to make sure that you click like. If you think that this is useful, then, you know, people are going to enjoy it, and YouTube will actually show it to more people if you click the like button. And we will know that you're interested and what you're interested in if you leave us some comments or even just some nice things to say. That is always awesome to hear. All right. And of course, if you feel like the ideas included here could be useful for someone else, do share this video with them. And again, check out our show notes. You can find me in lessanxietytoday.com and Less Anxiety Today YouTube channel. There is a lot more information there and a ton of videos. And you can find Richard.
Yeah, you can find me below that. You can find me if you want to stay in contact every day, I send out a daily email to my subscribers every day, or head over to Twitter and there's a weekly newsletter. And thank you again for joining us. And Oresztesz, thank you for being just amazing co-host. I love Mindful Matters, and taking the time and just being able to share some of these insights, that the kind of journey that our clients and many other people have been on, including ourselves, it's wonderful. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Cheers. Bye-bye.